And partners at the peak, a climbing couple's historic feat that was nearly derailed. Today, Sunday, April 29, 2007.
From NBC News, this is Today with Campbell Brown and Lester Holt, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
Plus, the couple that climbs together stays together. Well, I had the chance to talk with Phil and Susan Ershler about their dream of scaling the 7 tallest summits in the world. It's an inspiring story that becomes even more inspirational when you consider Phil was diagnosed with cancer during the attempt. And I'm thinking there are couples that can't take a drive in the country without arguing. Imagine climbing 7 mountains like that.
Yeah, pretty inspiring.
And probably all the time she says, stop and ask for directions.
I know.
What's up?
Still to come on Today, one couple's historic journey to the top of the 7 summits and the very personal struggle they faced along the way. But first, these messages.
Before they met, Phil and Susan Ershler may have spent years climbing different mountains, but it wasn't until they got together this couple truly reached their peak. Every relationship has its ups and downs, but few quite like Phil and Susan Ershler's marriage.
Looking good, Suze.
What began as a way to spend quality time together turned into an historic and life-altering goal.
After we had climbed Mount McKinley, the highest in North America, and Aconcagua, the highest in South America, then I certainly wanted to climb the 7 summits with Phil.
Phil had been there, done that. In 1984, he became the first American to summit Mount Everest's especially tricky North Wall. 5 years later, he completed the 7 summits, all the while battling Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammatory bowel condition.
For me, it became a way to stay healthy, and it was also kind of a statement. I wanted to say, hey, I can deal with this.
When they met, Sue hadn't hiked so much as a hill. And so the idea of climbing the world's highest peaks with her husband, much less keeping up with him, seemed an awfully tall order.
I had never heard of ice axes or crampons.
But she did know a thing or two about climbing the corporate ladder.
I took a lot of the lessons that we learned in business and applied that to climbing.
And so off they went, climbing 6 of the 7 summits together in 6 years, leaving only one, Mount Everest, climbing's holy grail, standing in their way.
Phil, you lost a lot of friends in the climbing business. Were you ever fearful for Susan's safety?
Obviously, I'm concerned in that I'm taking my wife to an area we know is inherently dangerous. I don't want to be known as the guy who killed his wife on Everest.
But before they could tackle Everest, they were suddenly confronted with another mountain to overcome. A very personal one.
I had a little issue and ended up in the hospital, and the surgery that resulted found colon cancer.
His cancer battle almost derailed their goal. But after months of treatment and recovery, the couple's spirits again soared to new heights, the heights of Mount Everest.
You go too fast just for the camera.
Trekking with their teammates toward the top, the couple became even closer. And even managed to enjoy some non-climbing activities.
Susie's keeping the boys entertained.
But then, Mother Nature kicked up her heels with a ferocious wind.
But it's blustery.
At just 1,400 feet shy of the summit, Phil made the call. They would have to turn back.
I was having trouble seeing, I was stumbling a little bit, and I thought maybe I'm just too worn out to do Everest again.
Phil said to me, I can't take you up in this storm, we've got to turn. Can you live with that? At that moment, I thought, we're out of here.
You came close to the summit, but you didn't make it. And then Sue uses the word failure. And I know that didn't go over very well, did it?
I called myself a failure, and I think Phil heard the word failure, and I shouldn't have used it. We had actually it was a very positive experience and expedition. But I wanted to go back.
And back to Nepal they went a year later. With favorable weather conditions this time around, the Ershlers became the first husband and wife team to climb Earth's 7 tallest summits. Together, they stood on top of the world.
Summit of the world.
There's no words to describe it. It's just that sense of accomplishment to do this with your husband.
In 1984, I'd stood on the top of Everest via the North Face alone, and I thought that was the greatest moment of my life. Nothing could conceivably top this. I was wrong. when we stood on the top together in 2002, that was better.
You can read more about the Ershler story by checking out their new book. It's called Together on Top of the World, or you can log on to todayshow.com.